Okay, I have not gotten enough sleep, super tired, and I want to talk about the movie Chronicle. Because I saw it again, and it's an amazing film. So I'm kind of doing a review of this, despite the fact the movie came out a couple of years ago at this point. And I want to do this. I want to do a video because it's fun. I like doing it. It's a nice thing for me to do. But I am so out of my mind tired and actually feel kind of sick. So we'll see how this works. All right. Okay. I'm so out of my mind right now. All right. Chronicle was a movie in this is going to be fun. 2012. Okay. It was a movie directed by Josh Trank, written by Max Landis, both of whom went on to other things. Interestingly, after this, in fact, God, did he do anything else after that? Josh Trank, after he did this movie, let's actually look at him real quick. I know things did not end up going well for him. I mean, this movie kind of it launched the career of Dane Hean and Michael B. Jordan. They were both amazing in it. Later on, they would actually work, well, Hean would go on to be the Green Goblin from the second Amazing Spider-Man movie opposite Andrew Garfield. I've gotten far too little sleep to remember names and faces and dates. It's awful. I'm drinking coffee and 2 in the afternoon. I'm way out of it. From what I understand, Josh Trank did this film, and it was just amazing. The entire film was done on a budget of like $12 million, and from what I understand, it was actually done mostly on a lot less than that. Quite a bit of money was spent cleaning it up a bit, and then marketing the film. For a $12 million film, it did a box office of $126.6 million. So, never mind however much it made otherwise. So for a very small budget film, very, very tiny budget, you got an amazing movie. It got a lot of attention, and that's probably how Josh Trank later went on to get the Fantastic Four movie, and Star Wars. So, Josh Trank does the Chronicle movie. He directs it, and it's amazing. For this tiny budget, in a world where typical superhero type movies are just like 100+ million, if not 150 million or more. This film was on 12 million, and it looks amazing. Like, watched it again, it looks as good or better than a lot of superhero films I've seen recently. The use of GoPro. The entire film, Chronicle, the premise of it, just going over this briefly, and I'm going to jump around like crazy because my neurons are not so much firing as sputtering out every so often in the generally right direction. Starting with Josh Trank. Josh Trank did this film. It was an amazing film. Clearly, he was an up-and-coming star. Like I said, two of the actors went on to be Dean in was the Green Goblin. Jordan ended up being Johnny Storm in the Fantastic movie, which was also directed by Josh Trank. He probably got that gig, I'm assuming, on the strength of this film, on Chronicle. And he also was lined up to do one of the Star Wars films. At one point, he was going to... Look at that arc there for the director, does this $12 million film. Definitely a small budget film. Real tiny. I mean, practically an independent film. And then he's doing the Fantastic Four, complete remake. And then he's slated to do Star Wars. Now, because of the awful fallout of the Fan Four Stick film, that's the Star Wars thing is off the table for him. He'll probably never get within spitting distance of the director's chair for any of the Star Wars franchise films now. Which is a shame. This was a very well produced film. It was very well directed. In very good use of shaky cam. Basically, God, it's like every thought is an effort. It's incredible, but I really want to do this, and I'm not going to have time later. I'm not going to be less tired later on. So let's go through this. Let's power through. Is it where we... Okay. Shaky cam. I've heard it described that people will criticize shaky cam films as though they're not using the shaky cam correctly. Maybe they have a different take on it than I do, but here's my take. Shaky cam exists for one reason. It's super fucking cheap. It is incredibly cheap. It is much cheaper and easier to just get a GoPro, literally have the character in front of a mirror with a camera, and not just a prop camera, but the actual freaking camera he's filming with, he or she, and just go. It's fantastically cheap. You can do a ton of footage very inexpensively. You can edit it super duper cheaply. And the trick to shaky cam film, it's expense. It's all about expense. I've seen some amazing documentaries way back in the day, like more than a decade ago, back when this was kind of a new thing, like the really small, very high quality, but inexpensive digital cameras were kind of a new thing. I remember someone talking about doing a documentary on the symphony or something like that, and she mentioned, I could do 100 hours of footage on a regular, actual, proper video camera, or actual film camera, would cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. This costs nothing. I mean, even a good quality camera at the time was only a few $100s, maybe $700 for a good definition digital, portable digital camera. For that kind of money, the camera you can get is pretty good. And the trick to a shaky cam film, where you're not using a big professional grade camera, is that you're trying to write your story and direct your actors in such a way that the audience buys that for whatever reason there's a camera as part of the story. In this movie, in Chronicle, the gimmick is, what's his name? Andrew is one of the main characters, one of the three main characters. Andrew starts the film, I'm filming everything now. He gets a cheap, big camera, he's like, I'm just filming everything in my life now. And so we're given that introduction, then slowly through the course of the film, especially in the beginning of it, we kind of see why he wants to. His father's abusive. His environment isn't great. His mother's dying. So I mean, you can kind of I could see why this guy would want to document everything. I mean, just looking at the introduction, his mother's dying, so he'd want every minute of her remaining time sort of preserved in some way. Also, all the bullshit his father's doing, actually abusing him violently. I'd want to document that too, and then kind of the bullshit at school. I mean, you can the cheerleader practice. I could see a teenage boy wanting to document all this. So that part makes for perfect sense. That's the trick to shaky cam. You want to do a cheap film, but you have to figure out some way to explain away why you're filming it on a cheap camera. This is one way to do it, and it's done very well here. Later he gets another camera, when the first one's not destroyed, but it's out of his grasp. It's gone. It's buried. So kind of the premise, I guess, in the audience's mind, perhaps, is that someone has recovered all these cameras. There's at least 3 instances of big major cameras, and then a lot of stuff is on cell phones. Also, brilliant use of that, of the premise there. A lot of it's done on cell phones and security cameras from a distance and so on and so forth, particularly the big climax. So, excellent use of it to make a low-budget film that looks freaking amazing. All their money, instead of going into camera, just goes into digital effects. The acting is fabulous. All these actors deserve to be discovered. So, that's that. That's the shaky cam thing. Let's move on to the next thing. Moving on to the next thing, because I have to do this quickly before I face plant into this desk. What's next? Help me, audience. You're my only hope. The actual story, superheroes. Let's go there. Superheroes. Okay. Superheroes. Okay. The recent trend in the 21st century is realistic superheroes. Like, not over the top, Christopher Reeve era Superman, where he's spandex and handsome, and he's got like the little curly Q and well-oiled hair and quipping and shit like this, in a spandex costume with his underwear on the outside of the outfit. That won't fly anymore. I'm so sleepy. I know that. Anyway, I need so much coffee. I need like an IV drip. Alright, it just won't fly anymore. People won't buy it. It's just too silly. Or maybe they will. I don't think anyone's just trying it. It's just that as superhero movies evolved, comic book superpower movies with iconic characters with unusual abilities, we'll just kind of lump them together. As those kind of progressed, the ones that were doing really poorly are the ones that were the most like a silly comic book, or actually said, hey, look how silly this premise is, we're doing a movie about it anyway for some reason, probably to sell toys. I'm looking in your direction, Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher. But the movies that took the character seriously and actually tried to fit that square peg in the round hole of taking something as really inherently kind of silly as a superhero or comic book characters, and tried to fit them into a realistic storyline. Like, maybe there's a reason Batman dresses up like a bat and is like this and does that, and things that are in the comics that don't fit, maybe we won't put them in there, but we'll do like kind of a wink and a nudge, like, hey, maybe remember this is a comic book movie, but we're taking it seriously. And audience responded well to those films, the films that took the genre more seriously. Dark Knight was amazing. It's still one of the best. That's one of the best films ever. I thought that film was fantastic. I love that film. Going back to this movie, this one takes it, oh God, almost to another level, to the point where Max Landis, who wrote the thing, is kind of like, no, this isn't a superhero film. And I'm like looking at like, no, this is a superhero film. You have one character slowly descend into madness, a character who's not necessarily a bad egg, but influences turn him evil. There's no other way to describe that. And he ended up repeatedly referring to himself as an apex predator. So, supervillain name. He ends up wearing kind of like, to kind of disguise it. He wears a disguise to preserve his identity, and calls himself a weird name. I mean, this is a supervillain. This is what a supervillain does in a comic book, and he's more supervillain than some comic book supervillains. But done very realistically and very empathically. I mean, you can get behind this guy. Great use of a villain, an antagonist. We care about Andrew, we understand Andrew, we even sympathize with him, even when he's in the midst of murdering the shit out of a city. I mean, it's his cousin Matt saves the day at the end, goes off and does this sort of memorial eulogy where he's talking to his now dead cousin. I'm not going to say spoilers at this point, because it's like, come on, this film came out 4 years ago. No, 4.5 years ago. This was January, so you've seen it by now, or you should have. And if you haven't, you should. The wrap up, really did. Then we wrap up, and then we are done with this, because I need to get done with this. Okay. So, anyway, my point was, it's a great superhero. It's a great Superman. Matt is a great Superman. He's a better Superman than Superman. Matt, what's the character's name? Matt Garrity. I'll take Matt Garrity over Clark Kent any day of the week. Because Matt Garrity has flaws. At one point, he's a horny teenager pursuing this, just quoting philosophers and trying to be cool. I mean, he's very realistically portrayed. I totally buy that character. Very well portrayed by actor named Alex Russell. Did a great job on it. Great directing by Josh Trank, whatever happened to him later on in Fan Four Stick. This was a very believable character. He came across as realistic and sympathetic. More than that, his powers have reasonable limitations. He can't do anything, but he's just a powerful telekinetic, and he can defend himself. And there seems to be some sort of danger-sensing power that isn't very well described. Explained. Every once in a while, they'll get a nosebleed when something is going on, particularly with the other characters, where they exert themselves too much. If this film went from Chronicle to trying to make it into Superman, it would be a great lead-in. Now, from what I understand, Max Landis, the way he's not going to get to do Chronicle 2, but the way he described it is something completely different, but I think he could have gone full-on Superman, and I know Max Landis is a huge Superman fan, so that's kind of a shame, because this would have led into a Superman film, a Superman-like film, very well. A realistic, Matt Garrity having experienced this stuff and become a Superman-like figure, that'd be a great film. We'll see how that goes. I'm curious as to what's going to happen in the next one. But let's do wrap up, and then let's wrap up and be finished. Okay, sometimes when I'm doing these videos, I mention that I'm really tired, and I'll use that to excuse my fumbles and mumbles and what have you. But that's nonsense. I am tired at other times, but I tell you right now, I am really tired. It's amazing. Okay, the review thing I do at the end. What are the odds you're going to see this and not like it? Low. Everyone I've known who's seen this film at least liked it, at least appreciated it, and most people really liked it a lot. One friend was watching it with her then boyfriend, and she was like, I'm just going to do laundry, I'll peek in at you guys, I got stuff to do. Saw like a few minutes of it, and the film is so compelling. She's like, can you guys start over? And it's like, shit, yeah. Fuck yeah. Odds you'll see it and not like it. I'd say low, real low, like 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I can't imagine what would rub you the wrong way on this film. It's clean. There's a lot going on, but it's only 84 minutes long. I mean, it's not even an hour and a half, so it's short and sweet. Everything happens quickly. Things get to the point, but things are explained enough that you know what's going on. Speaking of draconian concision, where every line, every word, every action serves a purpose, this film is brilliantly done as far as that goes. It looks great. It doesn't have distracting, this is clearly a low-budget film. It doesn't look like that at all. Like, if someone told me the price tag on this film was much higher, like $70 million or so, I'd believe it. It doesn't look like a $12 million film. It looks like a 40, 50, 60 or more a decently budgeted film. The effects hold up very, very well to much more expensive studio films. The acting is great, the directing is great. Like I said, Josh Trank got his shot in Hollywood, doing the Fantastic Four, and he also had a gig lined up for a Star Wars film. Now that's gone now, but still, it was on the strength of this movie. And all of the actors have proved themselves since then. The acting in this is fantastic. I can't think of any actor, because there has a relatively small cast. People who aren't main characters do enough to serve their purpose, and then they disappear. Perfect. Like a police officer yells at guy, fine, whatever. Other students, they show up and act like students. They're fine. Everything moves very fast. It's great. There's nothing not to like here, and if even if you're totally not on board with the superhero thing, like I said, I can't imagine. I want to say at best it's 1 in 12 that you won't like it, but man, it might even be like better odds that you'll like it. There's nothing not to like. It's a very good. It's an excellent film. I'd say it's absolutely excellent. Other thing I do in the review, would I see this again? I saw this again recently. I've seen it. I say I've seen this film at least 5 times, and I'd watch it again. Like if someone said, hey, like right now, like, hey, you want to see this again? Like today. And I'd say, I can't, I'm falling the fuck asleep, but later, sure. Because I'm really tired. So, yeah, I would see this film again. It's a great film. That's all. Please like and subscribe if you liked and are willing to subscribe to this. To me babbling incoherently while I'm half asleep. That's all. That has to be all. I'm out. I'm so out. I'm really literally going to go out at this point.